Hello everyone, it's Alex Miller. Some of you have met me, some of you have not. So hello to everybody again and new. Today my presentation is going to be off of emergency room visits. So a little background for you. The reason I chose this as a performance measurement for this presentation is because I actually work in the emergency room at one of the bigger hospitals in Portland, and I see it as a constant conflict or constant irritation for patients, having to wait to be seen for things that may or may not need to take so much time for. So let's get started. So emergency rooms versus urgent care. So the reason I did this is because some people may choose urgent care, which is totally fine and acceptable, and does make sense, because emergency rooms are more costly than urgent care. You're gonna maybe only pay a copay for urgent care. It is fast paced. You're not going to be waiting hours on end at a time. Sometimes you will, but not always. That's not always the case. And then in the emergency room, it's beneficial for patients to go there because you're getting everything you need done. So they do have the proper tools. So say that you went in for something that may have seemed small and then it's ended up needing further care, further testing. You wouldn't have to go from urgent care to emergency room. It's just one seamless visit, and you are in that hospital already. So it's going to, anything needing to be further done, or if you do need to get admitted as a patient in the hospital, the emergency room obviously is going to be the one that would be more beneficial for patients. But yeah, it is hard to definitely compare the two 100%. People have their opinions on both, which is normal. But like I was saying, there is pros and cons to both. So the problem that I have seen in the last few months or so, being in the emergency room, is that you do wait a long time. Patients wait a long time to be seen in the emergency room, and it could be things for sore throat or arm pain or finger pain or headache, and things that aren't necessarily considered urgent. Those patients are going to end up waiting a long time, which does cause frustrations to patients, which is totally understandable. But it does cause a delay in care, especially when patients who do walk into the emergency room, they're not going to necessarily be seen first compared to someone who's coming in via ambulance, or they may be seen upstairs in the hospital for an appointment and then they have to be seen down in the emergency room for something totally different and urgent. And so it does cause that sort of disconnect with patients, because you can't say as a healthcare worker, well, you're waiting here for a long time because of other patients and their needs. That's not appropriate, obviously, and it's not professional, but we can't, as healthcare workers, state that to patients. And so there's that disconnect of communication, and it becomes frustrating for the patients, and they get agitated, which I totally understand. So for today's thought on the measurement for performance, I wanted to sort of dive in on ways that we could maybe change the way that patients are seen at a time, and maybe providing more of an urgent care setting for patients while they're in the emergency room waiting, and allowing the opportunity for patients who don't need more in-depth care giving them that time that they need, that few minutes or, 10 minutes that they may need to get the prescription for their sore throat or get the x-ray done for their sore finger or their sore arm, and then, go from there. And again, allow that seamless, efficient flow. Now, going through and looking at performance-based measurements, and considering internal versus external methods, when measuring, I went more for the external side of things, and I looked at the uses for performance requirements and setting of targets. The reason why this best fits my measurement type is because you want to look at everything all together and then set the goal for that change. And there has to be, obviously target goals. You can't just say, we're just going to go straight through and set this standard to the all-time high. You have to start slowly and work your way towards that end goal to meet the needs for the patients, but also for the employees, because it's not only the patients that are going through this on their own, it's the employees who are trying to be efficient towards the patient and sort of meet their needs in the best capacity that they can. So the picture on the right here shows a track board, and the track board, for those of you who don't know, in the emergency room it shows, so this is obviously not the one that we use at my location, but it'll typically show the patient's name, date of birth, what their complaint is or reason why they're there, how long they've been there, and then maybe a room that's assigned to them, or if they're not roomed yet, they'll be waiting in the triage area, which is in the emergency room waiting area, to be seen. And so you do see, sorry, the picture's a little small there, but you do see the numbers, and typically what those numbers are is a time since they came in, since they walked in, they were input into the computer, and then they're waiting to be seen, or waiting to be given a room. So basically my measurement scale, what I would like to do or to propose is that there will be a scale from severity versus non-severity patients. So severity example is going to be the stroke, heart attack patients, cancer patients, those who need to be seen right away, versus those, again, who are. And so it's those patients, you want to look at the severity. And so basically the patients don't see this track board, obviously, because that's against HIPAA, but what the nurses could do is rate them on a scale, giving them a severity number of 1 through 5, and then basically the emergency room would have a set area for that quick care type setting. And so there could be certain doctors that are designated to that area for that day and certain nurses that are designated to that area for that day, allowing for a quicker turnover rate. And you won't have those patients that are in there for hours on end in a bed holding up a spot for other patients when they're just in there for a headache or a cough or that finger pain again. So again, it's going to go off of a measurement basis of figuring out how performance is going on this quick, timely turnover manner. And so if it's going seamlessly, if it's going great, it's going to be input by this data. And then patients are going to be given a satisfaction survey just so, the hospital can get that feedback from the patients as well. And then obviously going into that database and putting all the information together for, further adjustments or further goals or targets. Like I said, you can't just automatically have this ultimate target goal. It has to work small and work its way up. And so by putting in this target and putting in all this information, it allows the upper management and the managers and the leaders to go through and decide what's going to better suit this measurement. So the data should be used as an incentive for treatment, and you have to give incentive to your employees in order to want them to work for further success rate and for the organization. And so obviously there's ways to receive bonuses, whether it's from insurance companies, or also patients wanting to return back to that facility because, again, they didn't have to wait for so long. And so the data would work with that goal. And so, you can have this certain goal for a year and give this incentive to look forward to for your employees for a year set of time. And then say, hey, if this goal is met, this much bonus will be given out. But like I said, patients are more likely to return to a organization if they're very impressed and happy with the care that was given. I hear that constantly with the organization that I work with now. So it is a very, very high possibility. And so going through and looking at the need for reporting and transparency, I found this article online, and basically it's just talking about how transparency and reporting benefits an organization, whether it's public or non-public. And so, it's just to improve patient safety. Again, we want to look at how we can improve the patient safety and satisfaction and the quality of care that's given, but also what's going to be beneficial for the organization as well. And so with that, the feedback, the reporting, all that stuff goes hand in hand with furthering the organization's success rate. All right, here's my references, and I wanted to thank you all for listening to my presentation today.